responsible for overseeing DISH's long-term business development and strategy, as well as the company's emerging wireless division. A true veteran and leader of the satellite and telecommunications industries, he has gathered a long list of accolades over the years, including being named the Consumer Electronics Hall of Fame, figuring prominently among Forbes' top 10 CEOs in the United States, also Barron's World's Best CEO list. So without further ado, let's give a warm welcome to the living legend of the Rockies, Mr. Charlie Ergen. Thank you, sir. Yeah, have a seat. I think everybody's mic'd up here, right?
Good. Surprised anybody's still here. Don't you realize we have a blizzard coming?
Oh, they couldn't miss this or leave this. You know, before we get started, DISH has been a member of CCA for quite a while, and I can't let the opportunity go by without thanking you for sharing your most able executive vice president who sits on our board, Tom Cullen. Is Tom around here? I think I saw Tom.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tom.
Well, we had to find something for him to do, you know. People are getting tired of him around the office, so.
So we're working hard then. Thank you, sir. You know, your entire career, you've been described as a disruptor. Charlie Ergen is known as the guy that'll take on the incumbents. He'll change the marketplace. For example, in the cable world, they had 96% of the market, and after he joined the market, they substantially reduced their market share. And you know, we have a lot of members that compete daily with these mega companies and these large entities that have substantial market share. What kind of counsel and advice or thoughts you may want to share with our small regional carriers that are trying to survive and thrive in America? Well,
I don't know that I have a ton of advice on that. I think the way we've always looked at it is that there's always a business plan that allows you to compete. For every strategy, there's a counter strategy, and you know, at the end of the day, it's still the same basics of working harder, of having a focus of where you want to go, and having a team that wants to row in the same direction, and then find out. In the most cases, most of the time we spend working on our strengths, and we don't spend as much time trying to shore our weaknesses up. We spend more time trying to make our strengths better because we get more bang for our buck there.
Thank you. That's good. Well, let's get right to some of the major issues that our members are really interested in. You know, we just finished March Madness. Congratulations to UVA. You know. We got a couple of UVA grads. Now, we're sorry that your Tennessee Vols didn't make it out quite as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, they did better. You know, our old Demon Deacons, you know, they didn't even make a bracket, you know. And so I was out early, you know. I know you went, yeah, you went to Wake Forest also. So, but it looks like you're sort of getting ready to embark on your own March Madness of 2020 here, going out. I mean, DISH is the fifth largest owner of spectrum in the United States. You have an inventory of maybe around or over $20 billion of spectrum, but you don't currently have a network. Now, the FCC says you got to have a network by 2020, 12 months from now. And so I'm saying, Coach, what's your game plan?
Yeah, well, actually, it's 332 days from now. Not that we keep track of that sort of thing, but the FCC should have guidelines, and they should have time. You know, you should have build-out requirements. We're not questioning that. It's a little bit of an artificial build-out requirement in the sense that there's a huge paradigm shift to 5G, and 5G is not ready for us to build out today. So, and we have kind of one hand tied behind our back because we only have 5 megahertz of uplink spectrum, even though we have 45 megahertz of downlink spectrum is cleared. The rest of our spectrum doesn't get cleared, you know, till July of 2020. So there's not, as you know, there's not a huge network you can build 5 megahertz and 45 down. So a couple years ago, we looked at IoT, and when people didn't think that was much of a business, and we saw an opening there to do a counter strategy of we'll go into IoT in a place that nobody is. At the time, the incumbents weren't there, and in fact, the incumbents in some cases said that was not a good network. That was, of course, since that point in time, they also have their IoT networks up, and we won't be the only company with an IoT network, but we're in the midst of that build out today. It's harder than I thought it was going to be. You guys already knew that, but we're learning about it, and we're going to be successful. We'll get there in 332 days with a pretty robust narrowband IoT network. That is not enough to sustain the kind of capital investment that we've made in spectrum. It's unlikely you would get a return on 20-something plus billion dollars of spectrum. So nobody gave us spectrum. We went and bought it in auctions, and so. We're more excited maybe about phase 2 because phase 2 we think we make a difference, and we think we make a difference in virtually every industry and virtually everybody's lives, and virtually we get to attack some of the problems that from climate change to healthcare to education, all those things need 5G as an engine.
Well, you're an avid outdoorsman. You climbed Mount Kilimanjaro. You've done the base camp in Mount Everest. I think you've climbed every peak in Colorado. Is this a mountain too high to climb, or are you going to be able to make it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think we don't know. You never know till you try. But I think you increase your odds of success when you burn the bridges. So you have to be all in, and we are all in. So we're taking every single penny that Dish has ever earned, and we're investing that in a wireless network. And there's no escape hatch. We're either going to make it or not. When you climb a mountain, you have a very similar attitude, and the reason you become successful when you do that sort of stuff is you prepare, and then you have a good team, and the team works in tandem together. And when that doesn't mean that you don't climb a mountain and you run into a obstacle. There's been a landslide or an avalanche or bad weather. Sometimes you got a detour, but you can more times than not get where you're going as long as you've done those kind of things. And we've done those things. This is not our first rodeo. We've done those things for 38 years, and we have a good team that's focused on where we're going, and our leadership is committed that failure's not an option. Right. So that's our attitude.
Well, our members, our carriers know how difficult it is to build a network. As you said, you got 696 licenses to deploy. I was just, sort of listening. You got new technology, ITU standard for the interface has not been defined yet. It won't be defined until 2020. Delays in timelines, standards, 3GPP. I mean, you got redesign, RF design, devices operating on it. I mean, you got this NBD issue, never been done before thing. So, could you sort of enlighten us on?
And we need $10 billion more money.
Yeah.
But let me take you back to 1992 when we were in a very similar situation as a company, where we had been looking at building our own satellites and launching a DBS service to compete with cable, and as early as 1986. But by 1992, we said we burned the bridges and said we're going to go do it. But we'd never built a satellite before. We didn't have any money. We never built an uplink center. We never had a customer interface, billing, call centers. We had never built a digital radio. We didn't know about compression, and nobody would build a satellite for us. So we had to build it ourselves, and nobody would launch our satellite except the Chinese, because they were trying to build their industry, their launch business, and the other guys wouldn't. They wanted all the money up front from us before we launched, so we didn't have it. So, and the Chinese success record was at the time less than 50%. So that was a problem. That was a problem. Okay, fast forward today. Today, we're a listed public company. We do have the ability to raise capital. We do have a team of over 2,000 engineers. We do have billing. We know a thing or two about security. We do have a distribution network, and so we're in better shape to do it, even though we have all those issues. And so when you have a complex project, you just take those issues one at a time. And then it doesn't seem as complex. So you just focus on, okay, we're focused on the license, or we're focused on this tower here, or we're focused on this region, or we're focused on this 3GPP. But the good news is it all, this is a long-winded answer. It all comes together for us in 2020. So when you want to compete with really big guys. Oh, by the way, when we did satellite, we were competing against General Motors, the largest industrial corporation in the world, Comcast, AT&T. So it wasn't like these were weak sisters, right? So when you do it, you're looking for a paradigm shift. You can't go up against incumbents without a major paradigm shift. And most people think it's 5G is the paradigm shift, but that's a piece of it. But the bigger piece of the paradigm shift that's coming, that's going to affect everybody in this room, is the architecture of how you build a network. And in that case, because the architecture is going to move towards virtualization, in other words, doing things in software, right, that we do in hardware today, right, in a 5G world. And the things that the robustness of what that network will be able to do, that's the biggest paradigm shift. And in a funny sort of way, incumbency, including people in this room, is somewhat of a disadvantage, because much of what you need to become a virtualized network is a different architecture of how you build your system. So in my opinion, the wireless industry needs to move to the cloud, just like data centers have moved to the cloud. And when you move to the cloud, you do things differently. So I won't go into long technical details of how you do that, but it's a big challenge, right? And we're going to need a lot of help. So I'm hoping people in this room will help us.
Well, on that issue, I mean, I know you're doing AWS A and B channels linked with a 700 megahertz E block down, and you got the 1900 H block as a link up, which you mentioned only has 5 megs.
Yeah.
So what's going to make your first phase in NB-IoT competitive? What's going to distinguish you in the market to make the first phase a competitive offering? And are you looking for new partnerships? Are you looking for innovative ways to do that?
Well, the first phase network, I would have said a couple years ago we'd be very competitive, but now we have 4 competitors in that market, at least 4 competitors in the market. But we'll focus on certain peripherals and aspects where we think we can make a difference. As an example, we're pretty good in video. We're pretty good at being able to come to a customer's house and do service calls or install something on their roof or the side of their house. So we're pretty good in digital engineering. So I think there's things that we can do within the IoT space that use some of those skill sets. And we'll put the network out there. We'll also make the network open to anybody that wants to use it. So we'll have open interfaces and things where people can decide their own things. Having said that, there's not any question that our IoT network is going to be a lot more robust when we can use our 600 as our uplink, because a lot of times when you want sensor in the ground or in a basement or somewhere, and it's just not going to be as easy to do it at 2 gigs as it is at 600. So it's just you got to take the the incumbents the big incumbents in the industry forget that they all started with their first tower. Right? They expect Dish to suddenly, have 100 million customers tomorrow, or else we're hoarding spectrum, right? Well, you got to start with your first tower, right? And we've started with our first tower, and then you build your business. In satellite television, March 2nd, 1996, that was our first customer. Started with 1 customer, right? And then got to about 15 million customers. But we started with 1, and we're starting with 1 tower, and then we're going to be competitive.
Well, on that, the partnering relationship, I mean, CCA has almost 100 wireless carriers trying to figure out a way to survive and thrive in the 5G world, and you're looking at innovative ways of deploying wholesale opportunities also. So what's the benefit for the smaller carrier, the regional carrier? And hey, if they say, I want to partner with Charlie Ergen's team, who do they contact? How they get involved? My email address is charlie.ergen@dish.com. I guarantee you I will respond. In 38 years, I've never not responded. It may be you need to talk to Tom Cullen or Jeff McSchooler, but you'll get a response. But Jeff and David Zuffa out there and Tom Cullen are there. But feel free. I mean, you call me or you email me. Or you can come see us. Now you may when you say can I have an appointment, it may be 6 o'clock on Saturday morning, so be ready for it.
because I have a day job, but we'll talk to anybody. So let me talk a little bit about that. As a company, our strategy as we build out our network is not to build anything that somebody will partner with us for. We had that same strategy in DBS. We would have preferred somebody built the satellites for us and we would have leased them, but nobody would do it, so we had to learn how to do it. But if somebody wants to partner, we're not going to. If somebody has a good encryption system, we're not going to go build one, right? If somebody has a good radio, we're not going to go build one. We're going to partner with people. If somebody has a tower, we're not going to go build a tower, right? So if somebody wants to, the second thing is, for sure I see a pretty good fit, because for sure we need. And our business is built. Our heritage is rural and small business people. So today at Dish Network, we're still made up of thousands of small business people in small communities across the country. They're involved in their communities. They're the expert in satellite television there, and they do it less expensively than we could do it ourselves. So that model probably works in rural America for wireless, right? Second thing is, because we're going to build a 5G network from scratch, you already have a network. Everybody in this room already has a network. You probably don't have a great path to 5G, not the least of which you'd have to change a lot of what you're doing in your legacy stuff. We're going to do that anyway, right? We're going to do it anyway. So in a funny, we can be a path for you to 5G. Some of you may have towers. Some of you may have engineers. Some of you may have retail locations. All those things we don't need to duplicate, right? But we do need to build, go on a tower, put radios up, and make sure that our coverage is unique. And because we're going to be virtualized, and because that we'll be in the cloud for the most part with our processing, you start hearing about network slicing and things like that. In our network, you should be able to. If you were a CCA carrier, you should be able to just lease a slice of our spectrum and look like yours, in theory. We haven't done that yet. We haven't written that code yet, right? But that's the theory of how it should work.
Well, and you were talking about dynamic network sharing, network slicing, AI. I mean, you've looked at a lot of the Japanese Rakuten solutions, and I mean you've looked at a lot of things out there. So take us a little from your phase one to essentially phase two. You mentioned a little the benefits of a greenfield versus a legacy. Could you sort of give us an idea of what does that do on CapEx and OpEx, and where are you going to get the bang for the buck on the end, i.e. network coverage, which our guys, our members, are right there conceptually. Yeah.
So in starting with a clean sheet of paper, we have to build out the entire United States at one time. We think our CapEx will be somewhat less than the incumbent carriers have spent. And in part because you're going to break the baseband processing out, you're going to get into more off-the-shelf type product. There should be some lesser CapEx. Your OpEx, I think it remains to be seen. I can see OpEx actually might going up a little bit in the short term, but way down the long term. But what you end up with is a network that's more flexible. So if you look at the guys that made a lot of money, these young millennials that made a lot of money, they were just smarter than old guys like me. What they've done is they've just taken a resource, a capital-intensive resource that's not being used all the time, and just used it more efficiently, right? They've got more capacity up. So let's take Uber, right? It's only got an $80 billion market cap, right? But what did they do? They took that car that's sitting in my garage that I only use on a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week period. They take that car that I use about 5% of the time of its capacity, and they get a driver and they use that thing 12 hours a day, and so they're at 50% capacity with a car. And the math then works that they can actually drive me around cheaper than I can buy a car and drive myself around. Yeah. Right? And so all they've done. Airbnb, perfect example. They take a house or an apartment that's sitting idle and they just rent it. Right? And we're all sitting in this room here, and I don't know the statistics, but I doubt that your network today is running at 100% capacity. In fact, I bet it's not running at 25% capacity on a 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week, 365-day period. But in theory, once you virtualize a network and now you can slice a network, now you can start building use cases to take that capacity usage of a network and start moving that capacity from 15, 20, 25% to 30, 35%. The economics change. You know, I used to be a financial analyst, so that's the only thing I feel comfortable about. I'm not an engineer, so I'm out of my league in this room. But in math, when it comes to math and finance, I'm pretty good. And if you can increase the capacity utilization of and that leads to different. So it's not just about the consumer. I believe that your network in the future will not just be about the consumer. It's going to be about the farmer, the rancher, the manufacturing plant, the hospital, the school, the smart city. That's what your network's going to be about. And the other guys aren't going there as fast as we're going to go there. And I wouldn't if I were them either, because they've got to take care of the 100 million customers they got today, right? Which means 5G is going to show up on your phone, but it's really not going to do much different, right? We need to be able to do things where we're tracking where every sensor's connected, your health sensors are connected, your asset sensors are connected, your environmental sensors are connected. We have to make sure that we have robotics that work in sync without big cables attached to them, so we lead the way in production. You know, those are the kind of things that we need to do. We need to make sure that we do have sensors in the ground so we know how much water to water, so we don't water when it's raining, right? We know how to fertilize, and we build a database for better farming and ranching and so forth. So those are the kind of things we can do. And so one of the fun things for me is not only do we get to build a 5G network, but we have a purpose as a company. There's a reason to get out of bed, because we're going to help make the United States more competitive. We're going to make our environment better. So we're going to do more for climate change with 5G than eliminating cows and airplanes.
Great.
Because we're going to get real data on the environment, and we're going to have a network that's going to be able to do that. So that's the kind of stuff we're going to do. And I think every Fortune 500 company is going to want what we can do, and the other guys will get there. I'll give you another example. The paradigm shift for satellite television for us to compete against cable was digital compression. So suddenly we were taking an analog signal and we were converting all video to digital. We're the first company in the world to do MPEG-2, full MPEG-2 digital compression. So we took the world standard of MPEG-2, first company in the world to do it. The digital compression gave us at that time 4 channels instead of 1. So we had a 4-to-1. The economics were better by 400%. But the reason we were successful and the reason we can compete was we made the user experience better. So suddenly, in the digital world, our video quality was better. In fact, it was perfect. Didn't have wavy lines or speckles in it. Second, the on-screen guide that used to, some of you are old enough, I can see, that used to, Frank, you know, the guide used to scroll. You used to watch the cable, and the guide was rolling up, and it was a scrolling guide. We made the guide interactive. You could put the channel number, go to the channel, and then you could get information. In fact, we went a step farther. We invented the DVR, so you could record that channel without your VCR blinking. And then we went a step farther and let you skip commercials, even though we got sued for that, but we won, right? Because customers don't like to watch commercials, which is why Netflix is so good, right? We'll do the same thing we'll do the same thing. We say 5G, but it's about the architecture of the network. So suddenly that network's going to be more robust. Suddenly that network can be used 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you just want 30 minutes of the network, you can get 30 minutes of the network. And you can have dynamic pricing. So we can charge more money at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and less money at 5 a.m. That's the kind of things I think we can do.
That's
and the people around the world are doing pieces of that, right? And Jio in India kind of got to first base with virtualization. They're doing a lot of interesting things with video and a lot of interesting things with usage. Rakuten is trying to get there with 4G virtualization. You know, they're on that path. They believe they can do it, and we think we can do that in a 5G world. But we need a lot. We know we need a lot of help.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with you on the opportunities there. Let's drill down just a little on video issues. I mean, 2018 subscriptions to online video services rose, surpassing cable, but also IPTV surpassed satellite TV subscribers last year. Now, home entertainment has gone up, demand's gone up 24% in the last 12, 18 months. A Wall Street Journal article there, end of last March, said there are too many choices. We have a dilemma. There's too many choices. So there's more competition out there this time in this NB-IoT/5G virtualized world than there was when technology gave you an enormous advantage in the marketplace. So are there too many competitors out there? And what is the opportunity for the fixed mobile wireless / partnering concept that is the market?
A lot of questions there. I'll take them one at a time.
Okay.
I'll try to parcel it. So video is very competitive. I think video's never been better. Your choices have never been better. The experience has never been better. And the disruptor, Netflix and Amazon, they've been able to disrupt because they've taken modern technology, virtualized their network. So guess what? Netflix is in the cloud, right? Comcast cable's not really in the cloud, but Netflix is. Right? They made the user experience better. So their video's good, but their user experience is great. No commercials, you can binge view, you can watch on any device.
Right.
And the price is $10. So they've taken advantage of the technology of fiber. And so that's changed things, and that's disrupted the video industry. And yeah, there's lots of competition there. Yeah. But we've done pretty well and continue to do pretty well in that environment because we're in small towns and we're small business people and we're more in the rural towns. So we're not selling a lot of systems in Boston today, but we're still selling a fair number of systems in Montrose County in Colorado. And then, of course, we're the first company to do live TV on an OTT basis with Sling TV. And some of you actually in this room actually may sell Sling, but you certainly have contractually have the right or that we have gone to all CCA members that you can sell it. And I think that the missing piece that we don't do today is the broadband connection. So one of the things that you may have read about, we did make an investment in a company out in Silicon Valley that's got some very interesting technology in fixed wireless. They do two things that we haven't seen before. One is near line of sight. In other words, the product works. And by the way, the product works in the lab. The product hasn't been tested in the field yet. So to go from lab to the field is usually a year or two, and then you're not always successful. So I'm not endorsing Toronto is going to be successful, but they do two interesting things. One is near line of sight, which means that you don't have to be pointed right at the transmit antenna. And the other thing is they do interference mitigation, which means you can use unlicensed spectrum. And usually in fixed wireless, you get to be a victim of your own success because you get enough customers where suddenly they're all interfering with each other. And they've done a ton of stuff with signal processing for interference mitigation that they virtually eliminated some of that self-interference. So that means that you can in fact scale for more customers. So to the extent and we think in the fixed wireless business that at least for our company, the place that we can compete is in the smaller towns and the more rural areas. We don't know that we can compete in Boston. There's Verizon, Starry, Comcast. There's a lot of guys that maybe are going to do it there. But no, in Montrose, nobody's got a good broadband system there today. And we think that if you're, I'll take a step back, as we build our 5G network out, as we go to the tower, as you guys know, permitting, zoning, structural, all that stuff, you might be $100,000 into these tower guys before you even take the first step up to put a radio on, right? And the fixed wireless guys the same way. But if we go put the fixed wireless on at the same time and put our mobile broadcast on, our mobility, and perhaps even broadcast at the same time, right? Then there's economies of scale in how you do your build out. But it gets a little better than that, because now you could be selling mobility and you could be selling fixed broadband at the same time.
And we're working.
And if you're selling fixed broadband, then you're selling video, right? So suddenly you have a better way to do a triple play maybe than what you do today. But better yet, you're more efficient at how you do it, because now you're very cost competitive. So I can see a day where it's literally for mobility, fixed wireless, and video, it's $100. Right. And today that'd be $250, and it wouldn't be very good.
If you believe content is still king, Sling, we've been working with Sling, as you know, and Tom and your whole team has been very helpful. I'd love to see Sling / CCA members as the content provider for rural America, and I think there's a couple issues that we're working on now that I think would be beneficial to Sling and also to our members. You'd probably need another 2,000, stores throughout the United States.
We need 2,000 stores. We need towers. Some people in this room have a tower. To the extent you got any space, we'd love to be a tenant. the extent you got a store, we'd love to be selling something. To the extent you got technicians, people who want to help us go do installations or climb towers or whatever it is, or we're going to need all those things, and it's not, look, I hope we have a lot of fun in what we're doing. I hope we make a difference. I hope we have a purpose, and I hope we make money for our shareholders, and I hope we give opportunities to our employees and to reach their potential, and I hope we give customers a better product.
We don't have much time left, but I did want to ask you this sort of crystal ball question. Not only is where is the wireless market going in the 5G world, but with the mega companies, do you see more consolidation or in growth, or will technology and innovation help create what I would say a kaleidoscopic customer opportunity so that the small carriers can continue to compete? Where is it going? Are we going to have 3, 4, or 5 mega? Because you got Google and Amazon.
I don't know. You'd have to ask the Justice Department and the FCC. I mean, regulators, I think the one thing that always worries you as a business person is the things you can't control. And one of the things the biggest thing that we can't control is our decisions out of Washington. For the most part, I think they do a pretty good job, right? I mean, having worked with the FCC and the Justice Department in the past, I think, and been on the losing end of a lot of that, I still have a high degree of respect for the people that staff and the hard work that they do. But obviously Sprint T-Mobile will be a merger that will have a big effect on the people in this room and the industry for a long time to come. And we're public that we've opposed it as it's been presented. We're opposed to it because we think it reduces competition and raises consumers' prices, right? I think there are some of their arguments that I might be sympathetic to, but they would need to attack those anti-competitive and consumer issues that go along with that merger as proposed. But it's probably not super great for the people in this room either, because they just be bigger, more powerful, and particularly in the rural side than they otherwise would be. So there's things they could do, in my opinion, that would be a remedy to that. But and maybe they'll do some of that, and maybe some of that's going on. But that's going to have a big impact one way or the other. Having said that, the wireless industry is going to get disrupted. You're going to have to change. I mean, everybody's going to have to change. And the wireless hasn't had this big disruption. It hasn't been disrupted like video has been disrupted. It hasn't been disrupted like data centers have been disrupted, right? And it's, as we say in Tennessee, it's fixing to get disrupted. And I hope we're going to be part of that leadership to do it and do it in a good way.
We're about finished in time, but one last thing. What's the one thing you would want this group to know about DISH as you leave the stage and enter into the great wireless world here?
Well, I mean, I think the one thing you should know is we're really, 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 really committed. We didn't buy. Everybody thought we were buying spectrum to sell it, right? And for 7 years we've been focused on. We're really committed to building a 5G virtualized network that can be the first standalone in the world outside of China, probably the first standalone network in the world that's focused on where this industry needs to go, because we think it's super important to this country, and we think and we don't think the other guys get there as fast unless somebody's pushing them a little bit, and then we'll see. There's no guarantee. We may fail. We may fail, but you don't know till you swing the bat, and we have a quiet confidence. We're not. In fact, I don't even do this kind of stuff. I think we don't even talk publicly about what we're doing, because we're just going to go do it, and then I got a switch outside my office, and in a few years we just flip the switch, and it all works.
Well, we hope you hit it out. We hope you hit it out of the ballpark.
That's what my guys tell me. You don't really have. You just put a switch and you flip it, and everything lights up.
Everyone, Charlie Ergen, thank you so very much. Thank you. That was wonderful. Appreciate it. You're welcome back anytime. Thank you.